Good morning all. This video is regarding your module 3 chapter 2 memory management, and this is the syllabus content of your chapter 2. First topic is about main memory. Already you learned about the memory hierarchy and all, how the memory will work, what is the difference between your primary memory and the secondary memory, how it works. Everything you already known in the first and second module. So here the basic concepts of your main memory is used to store the information. You all know that memory is a space where you are is a storage area. It is used to store the data or the content, and primary memory is nothing but it is a uh, volatile in nature, but your secondary memory is a non-volatile in nature. So if you want to extend any or your memory space, you are making use of your secondary storage devices, external devices, and your external devices are non-volatile in nature. And next is your primary concepts or primary memory requirements. What are all the memory requirements? Primary memory requirements are access time. Whatever the memory device you are using, in the memory hierarchy you will be having a n number of memory or storage devices. In that, what is the user consent about if you are using any storage area, means you are concerned about mainly 3 points. One is the access time. Whatever the memory or storage device you are using, either the primary memory or the secondary memory, the access time should be always fast. The user will expect that the access time of the data will be always access time will be very less. It means as soon as he is trying the user trying to access the data, it should be done within a fraction of seconds. If there is a delay in the accessing of the data, it is not a good requirement of your or it won't fulfill the requirements of the user. That is the one point. And next is size. Being an user, what you will expect, you will expect the storage device should have a high should consist of a large size. That is from user point of view, always user requires the size of the memory location of the size of the storage device should be very large, so that the user can store more number of programs or more data in that storage device. That is the one another requirement. Next is cost. Being an user, if you want to buy any external device or any memory storage, what you will think? You will think the cost of the memory storage will be always less, correct? Being a users, you always want the cost should be always in a minimal way. But when you want the high access time, when you want the size should be, it these three won't match at a time. Because for example, in a memory hierarchy, the first storage device comes as your registers. What is the access time for your register? It is very speed. It is very high speed. Access time is very speed. But what about the size? The size of the register is very small compared to all other memory registers. Then what about the cost? Even though the size of the register is very small, but it is having a very high cost compared to other storage devices. So these three never can meet the requirement as user expecting. If you want a high speed and if you want a high speed means you should go with the registers. If you want the very big large size of storage device means you should go with the secondary storage devices. And same as the cost, if the size is very small, the cost is very high. It is just a vice versa, because your registers are the size of the registers are very small, but the cost of the register is very high. So that is the primary requirements of your memory if you are using that. Next is memory management functions. What are all the what are all the features or what are all the responsibilities of your memory management. You already learned in this first module completely about the memory management, process management and all. What are all the basic features or what are all the basic functions of your memory management? The first one is to allocate the primary memory space to the processors. For each and every process, you have to allocate the primary memory. And next is minimize the access time, because the access time should be always in a higher way or the fast. Next point is determining the allocation policy for the memory. In the memory management in your first module, I already said that for allocating and deallocating the memory, for allocating and deallocating the memory space for the data or the content, there should be, it will make use of some policies. Based on that policy, it will allocate the memory space and deallocate the memory space. Those are the basic features or the functions of your memory management. Next is, as I said, the reallocation technique and policies. These are the memory management functions you should, being an users or the OS should take care of. And next is your basic hardware of your memory. What do you mean by that? Basic hardware of your memory. It is nothing but, you already know that memory compared to the IO devices, your input output devices, the processor speed is very high. So what you will do, when the CPU can access the content of the main memory and CPU can access the content which is present in the main memory and the registers directly. So that is the one thing. If the requested data from the user, if it is not present in the main memory or the registers, then first it will try to load the data to your main memory disk. Then only you can process the operation. Next, where the registers resides, your registers will always reside within the processor. It is nothing but always the registers are built on the processors. Those are the processor registers. So because of that, the processing speed or the, if you are making use of registers, means it is having a very efficient way. The access time is very less compared to all other memories. And the, if you are making use of the registers, means the processing, the CPU clock cycle, you can execute any of the program within a one CPU clock cycle. I instead of registers, if you want to fetch the data from your main memory, means it will take minimum 2 to 3 CPU clock cycles. That is the difference between, that is the main reason why you are making use of registers. Main is access time. And next one, whatever the data, if you, being an users, if you want to store any of the data, if you want to store the program in the memory location, means for each and every process, it will be allocated a set of address space. For each and every process, there is an dedicated address space in the memory location. How the processor, how the operating system will identify for this process what is the address space. For identifying that address space, here you are making use of two special registers. One is base register and another one is limit register. What is this base register and limit register? In the base register, it will always consist of, the base register will is loaded with a physical address. In the, in next topic, I will explain you what do you mean by physical memory or physical address and the logical address. The main thing is, in the base address or in the base register, it will load with the it will loaded with a physical address where its program begins in the memory location. And what about limit register? Limit register consists of the length of that program, how much space required from the base to the limit, what is the content or what is the space required for that process. That is about your base and limit register. Using this two registers, you can able to store the data or you can able to store the content in the memory location. This is nothing but your address space and the memory. This is one example. User process code. If for example take this user, user is trying to store a data, that is a process number is 4. For that process, this is the starting address of that memory location physical address, and this is the limit plus base. The limit is consisting of length of the program. From the base address, what is the length of the program, that is the ending address of that memory location for that process. That is the allocated space for that particular process. Each and every process consisting of its own base register and the limit register. Based on that base register and the limit register value, the operating system will identify where to store the data in the memory location. And the next one is address space mapping. What do you mean by address space mapping? Address space mapping is nothing but whenever the source program or the user program, whenever you send the user program, how it will work or how it will get executed. You should know what all the process or what all the process takes place within the CPU or within the processor. What right now what is visible for you, you are writing a set of code. If once you compile that, it will execute and it will give you, once you run the program, it will give you some information or some output. That is what you know. But how it will works, what all the process takes place in between entering the source program or loading the source program till the execution time. There are mainly three process takes place uh, to execute the program. First one is user is entering the source program, user is providing the source program. That source program will be compiled by your compiler. It can be any kind of compiler. If you are executing the C program, means it will be a C compilers. Like that, there will be n number of compilers. Whatever the data or whatever the program compiled, what happened in your compiler is, whatever the source program, it is in the user understandable code or human understandable code. It should be converted to the machine language. That will be done by your compiler will translate that whatever the human executable code or human understandable code to the machine language or the machine executable code. That is the process done by your compiler. Once it is translated to the machine understandable code or executable code, it will be passed to your linkage editors. What actually happen in your linkage editors is, if there is any memory, for example whatever the program you are sending, for that it will consider as a one process. If you want to store that process in the memory location, you should specify the address there. So in linkage editor, what you can do is, linkage editor is nothing but like a space where you can add or delete the content if anything is missed, or if the address is if the address whatever specified is not correct, then you can change the address or any of the content in the program. That is happened in the linkage editors. That's why it is named as an editor. You can change or you can modify the data. And next is loader. What do you mean by loader? Once the program is completed, it will be the loader work is to load the program or load the source code into your main memory. The time taken by linkage editor and the loader, that is called as a load time. There are mainly three phases. One is compile time, load time and execution time. This linkage editor and the loader, how much time it will take to load the program to your memory location, that is nothing but your load time. Next is your memory image of program. What do you mean by that? Once the loader load complete executable code to the memory location, then it will get executed. How much time or how much CPU cycles it is required to execute one process, it is nothing but your execution time. This is the process. This is the processing of your user program. Once the user enters, or once the user provides the source program to the computer or the processor, what all the process takes place. This is the brief explanation about how the program will get executed within the processor. Your next topic is concept of memory address. In this concept of memory address, as I said you before, there are mainly two address space. In your memory location, there are two address space. One is logical address and another one is physical address. What do you mean by logical address and physical address? Logical address is nothing but it is generated by the CPU. This address is also called as virtual address. Logical address is nothing but it is a virtual address which is not, you can take it as which is not real. Logical address is nothing but which is not real. But the physical address is nothing but what is the address present in the memory location. That is the physical address. That is the difference between your logical address and the physical address. In this, if you want to store the any of the data to your memory location means there is a memory management unit MMU is responsible for runtime address mapping from virtual to physical address. If there is a logical address or from the CPU whatever the data from the processor whatever the data or the content you want to store to the memory means it will be taken care by your MMU memory management unit. Its responsibility is to run time is it's responsible for runtime address mapping for virtual address to the physical address. That is taken care by your memory management unit. What do you mean by dynamic reallocation? First of all, reallocation is nothing but what in the first in upcoming semesters you will came to know you have to specify in the program you need there some requirements like you need to specify the address where the program should go and store. You will be manually entering the address space or the memory location where the program should store. In by that time, what happens if the space or the memory location is not free for that moment to store that program means it will be get relocated. It is nothing but the user need not to worry about the whether the memory location or the memory space whatever the user is specifying is free or not. Even though without the knowledge of the user you can specify the memory location but it will get relocated dynamically. That is nothing but your relocation. Relocation is nothing but, for example, in the program if you specified it as if it will be starting from 0. For if the memory location is not free or no, it is already allocated for the other process means what the operating system will do, it will reallocate the program, but the operating system will take care of that. The rest of the instructions will be executed or will be stored in the consecutive manner. It is nothing but if it is relocated to 4000 means the next instruction should be loaded to your 4000 of 4004. In such a way, the operating system will relocate the complete source program. That is the basic definition or working procedure of your relocation. But here, what do you mean by dynamic relocation? It is work as same. As I said you, your CPU or the processor send some logical address. The logical address will be having a along with that logical address you will be having a relocation register. For example, as I said you, for relocation consider this 3 346. This is specified by the user. So if it is specified by the user, for example in your main memory the 346 that address or that memory location is not free means what happened, your relocation register will create one address space. It will be get added to your logical address. After that, physical address is nothing but the address present in the memory location. The actual final address will be generated as a physical address. To that particular address, your whatever the data the CPU trying to store, it will be get stored in your memory location. That is nothing but your dynamic relocation. Dynamic relocation is nothing but there is no any fixed content, or there is no any particular algorithm like it has to store in a such a way, or it has to store in the consecutive manner of I mean each and every process. If one process is stored in 41346 means it is not it is not it is not a rule like hit the next process which is passing from the CPU has to store in a next physical address itself. It won't be like that. It will be stored wherever the memory space is free. It will check whether the memory space is free or not. Where the memory space is free, once the it will be stored to the free slots of in your memory location. That is nothing but your dynamic reallocation process. Next is your dynamic loading. Dynamic loading is used for better memory space utilization. As I said you, dynamic reallocation, what happens, it is there is no any such a rule like it has to store one after the other. So what happens, wherever the memory space is free, it will allocate the resource to that particular memory location. That is how the process of storing that data to the memory location is nothing but dynamic loading, the loading process. What is the use of this dynamic loading? Once user program size is large as compared to the memory size, program or process are dynamically loaded into the memory as per required. And next is there are few advantages in our dynamic loading. What are all the advantages in our dynamic loading? Unused routine is never loaded. If the content is not doing, or if the data is not processing anything means it would never get loaded into your memory location. That is one use of your dynamic loading. Next one is special support is not required from the operating system. Next, use it with error routines. Once there is a dynamic loading process, the memory utilization will be work or will be in a very efficient manner, because if there is any such rules one after the other in a consecutive manner, only the operating system should store the memory location means by the time what happens, if there is a free slot, or if there is a free slot in between which is not able to store the particular process or the program means it it will skip that memory location. Or once the memory is allocated for one process, after executing, if it is get deallocated means it won't get reused again. That disadvantage will be overcome by your dynamic reallocation and dynamic loading process. This is about your main memory concept. Next is swapping. Your next topic is swapping. What do you mean by swapping? In the general term, in your general English, the swapping is nothing but you are exchanging two processes. That is nothing but in this operating system, you are exchanging two processes. In your general English, swapping is nothing but you are just interchanging, right? Interchanging is nothing but swapping. So what happens, your main memory space compared to your secondary memory, your main memory space is very less when it is compared to secondary memory. So what happens, if you are storing all the process in the main memory itself means, if you are keep storing the processes in your main memory means it will it it requires more memory space. For that reason, what you will do, whatever the process get blocked, or whatever the process is not executing anything, is not doing any work, that process will be swapped to your secondary memory, and which is the next process that will be loaded to your main memory. This is how your swapping will work. Already you learned about the scheduling algorithms. In your round robin and the priority based CPU scheduling, what happened in that, you will make use of the preemptive scheduling algorithm. What do you mean by preemptive? Preemptive is nothing but if any of the process is executing in the processor, means the next processor or the next process is going to halt or going to interrupt that process, right? That is nothing but your preemptive process. In a such a way, in your round robin, based on the time slice, you are going to preempt that value, correct? You are going to preempt that process. By the time what happens, just let us consider your P1 process is arriving first at the 0 time, and it is executed for example, take the time slice as 2 milliseconds. If P1 process is executed for 2 milliseconds, then what happens, it has to swap from main memory to the secondary memory. In the same way, the P2 process will execute it. Once the P2 process is completes its execution, again it has to swap out from the main memory and swap into your secondary memory. By that time, what happens, whatever the process present in your secondary memory, P1 process, it will swap back to your main memory. This is how your swapping process will work. Your swapping mainly works and uh, your preemptive scheduling algorithm. It is nothing but once it is present in the memory location, main memory, means it will get executed. If you want to execute any of the program, it has to first present in your main memory. If the content or the process present, if the data is present in your secondary memory also, first before it start its execution, all the data from your secondary memory is to first loaded to your main memory. Then only the operating system will get started its execution. So in the same way, swapping, what happens in swapping is, once the P2 process is executed in your main memory, if it is enters to the waiting state, by that time your P2 process will be swapped out to your it will be swapped to your secondary memory from the main memory, and which is present in your secondary memory, it will be that process will be in the blocked state. From that blocked state, it will be entered to the ready state, and it is loaded back to your main memory and it will get executed. This is how your swapping will work. And in the swapping process, what happens, the swapping time, whatever the transferring time, it will swapping increases the operating system overhead due to the disk IO involved. And the major part of the swap time is transfer time. The swapping between the secondary memory and the main memory, it will take more time. That is nothing but your transfer time. In a swapping process, the transfer time will be very high. And in this swapping, it will create a multiple holes in a memory. It is possible to combine them all into one by moving all the process to one side of the memory. If there is not like if there is only two process, you are making use of separate slots. If there is a multiple process, then what you will do, once the P1 is get back, you need not you can't predict that again. The once P1 is again swap out again it is transferring from main memory to secondary memory, it will load to the particular secondary memory itself. You can't predict that, and it can't work like that. So what happens, it will create a more number of holes or more number of space in our memory location. What happens, those space will be combined as all the process present in the memory can be moved to one side, and this technique is called as memory compaction. Memory compaction. What happens, your swapping creates some multiple holes in the memory. It is possible to combine them all into one by moving all the process to one side of the memory. This technique is known as memory compaction. But the what is the disadvantage? Compaction requires a lot of CPU time. For that process, most of the operating system won't use this technique because it requires a lot of CPU time. Most of the operating system won't work or make use of this technique. This is about your main memory and swapping concept in your module 2, sorry, chapter 2 of your module 3. Please watch the video, and if you get any doubt, revert me back.